Okay. The Thursday, June 20th, special voting meeting will call to order. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Baldino.
Here.
Mr. Cannon.
Here.
Mrs. Donahue. Mr. Elling.
Present.
Mr. Johnston.
Here.
Mr. Knopf.
Here.
Ms. Lynch. Here. Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mrs. Smith. Here. 8 members present.
Okay. So I guess we're going right to hearing of visitors. The Keystone Central School Board of Directors encourages public comments from its citizens. Each community member may speak for a period of no longer than 4 minutes per board policy. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Our individual email addresses are on the website. If you'd like to contact an individual board representative, we ask you please direct complaints of a personal nature regarding an individual employee directly to the superintendent. First up, it's supposed to be Martin, but I don't see Martin anywhere. Oh. Jennifer Walker. I'm sorry, I can't read your last name.
There he is.
Should I just start?
Go ahead. Yep.
My name is Jennifer Walker. I have 4 children with my husband, Greg. Our son, Jackson, just finished his sophomore year at Temple University as an electrical engineering major. He's living in Philadelphia this summer to work at his internship at the Department of Defense. Our daughter, Archie, you saw our girls last week. She's an upcoming senior at the high school, but next year she'll be taking most of all of her classes at Commonwealth University like she did this year. She's a 3-year varsity soccer player, and she just became the vice president of the Rotary Club. Remember last week when they talked about how great the middle school track team's doing? Well, Archie managed and coached that track team with Keystone Central staff. This was convenient for us because our twins, Lucy and Lane, were also both on the track team, and Archie was able to drive them. Lucy and Lane, like their siblings, have always been on high honor roll, and they were both in the middle school basketball team last season, and they're attending all the summer basketball and tennis workouts that the school has to offer this summer. All of our kids are musicians also. In the past, Greg and I have enjoyed volunteering at the schools. I love face painting the students and watching Greg fill in for Santa at the Woodward Carnival when Jackson was in kindergarten and 1st grade. Then we moved to downtown Lock Haven, and all our kids attended elementary school at Robb. We loved Robb, and I truly enjoy seeing all the things happening on social media now. I was the PTO secretary. Every year our children were in elementary school with the exception of 1 or 2 years. Our family helped build the playground at Dickey. I organized book bingos and helped with countless school fundraisers and events. My point is that we have tried to be involved. We value both education and athletics. We respect the teachers and we teach our children to do the same. But I no longer feel welcome or valued in the schools. I was bullied and I continue to be bullied by not being listened to. Last week, my husband said something to the board that made him look kind of foolish, and it came from me. We were quoted stating that Keystone Central School District spent $300,000 busing a handful of students to Williamsport in the 2019-20 school year. Yes, indeed, that sounds extremely foolish and wasteful. This is why when on May 20th, 2020, a Nittany Learning Services program director told me this number and that NLS was closing their ADY location in Williamsport because of how much it costs to transfer students there, I reported what I was told to a school board member. This program director also said that NLS was looking at renting space in the high school, specifically the old horticultural building. I worked for NLS during the 2019-20 school year. I was hired to provide the state mandated counseling hours that ADYs are required to provide. I worked at their Pleasant Gap ADY, at the Williamsport ADY, and the high school CLP every week. I received a follow-up text from that board member around the time this board signed additional contracts with NLS on June 18, 2020, one of which added 3 more years of CLP services. His text read to me, I quote, "I don't know where the savings are other than NLS is saying they are paying for transportation." I responded, quote, "I saw that too. They are paying upfront, but KCSD is responsible for reimbursing NLS to the tune of $1.95 per mile at 52 miles per day." I wrote him another text right after that one. "Unless I'm doing the math wrong, KCSD is contracted to pay NLS $1,002,000 between the CLP and 6 seats at Pleasant Gap over 3 years, plus mileage, plus per diem for 6 students over the 6. The original contract was $972,000. He responded, quote, "I didn't catch that. I'll have to look at the contract." Then he wrote, "I see that now in the ADY contract. We were assured by the superintendent that we would not be paying for transportation." How does that even happen? I think I know one reason why that happens, and last week's meeting was a good example. Although it was great to hear all the great things happening in the district at the beginning of the meeting, voting on how tax dollars are being spent is important stuff, and to cram it all into one swooping vote does look a little suspicious. How can we expect board members, especially the new ones, to practice due diligence if they are not given some time to read all the contracts, time to ask questions, and time to have their questions answered? So
Excuse me,
technically,
Jennifer?
KCSD was not paying for
Jennifer?
transportation.
Over your 4 minutes.
Okay, they were paying to reimburse for transportation, so I suppose that makes it legal.
Could we hear whatever else she's got to do there?
I'm done? I can't finish?
You're done.
Why can't we hear the
Our
rest
board
of it?
I mean,
policy
you guys have had 50 pages of this for
Our
like
board
3 years and you're
policy-
ignoring me.
says 4 minutes. If the board would like to violate the policy, someone can call for a motion in a second and see how it goes.
I call for a motion that we allow her to continue.
I
You call for a
second it.
motion in second and it passes.
I second it. I'd like to hear what she has to say.
We
We've
have
done
a
it for
motion.
others.
We have a motion in a second to allow her longer than 4 minutes. Any questions? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry, I thought board policy said the president has the right to extend a public
I think
comment.
the board policy says they can vote, the board can vote and change it. So we have a total of 30 minutes total.
Okay, so you said no as the president, and now it's the motion to supersede what the president's
In the policy.
comment is. Comments no from the president.
Last week, Tom asked for a lady to continue on. We didn't have to take a vote to hear the end of it.
Whoever's the right
Yeah.
way.
Last week, she wasn't over her 4 minutes.
I think, I don't see a
We have-
problem with your.
We
so
have a
let's vote.
motion and a second. Any more questions? All those in favor of allowing her to continue signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
No, I don't want to violate the policy.
I'm gonna say no also.
So that means no?
Who means yes?
That means,
Well, as of now, only 2 people said no, so continue.
thank you. As a licensed clinical social worker, I am held to certain ethical standards. There was a lot of discord with the LNLS programming. For example, a man with no experience in working with the school was hired to monitor the suspension room at the high school. This was one of the 3 initial contracts KCSD had with NLS. I remember being so happy the day that we got permission to bring the CLP students down to watch the homecoming assembly. I wanted our students to feel a part of the school. Anyway, the man with no experience called and texted me to get back upstairs to take his place so he could go coach football at Bellefonte High School with Shannon Manning and another NLS owner and employees. NLS owners and employees left our schools early every day to coach football for another district. By the way, after that inexperienced suspension room monitor complained almost relentlessly that he was bored, he was made the program director of the CLP class. This man spent several minutes arguing with me that Black people smell differently than white people. On 2 occasions, I watched him bring a trash can over to a desk of a student that was experiencing food insecurity. This student would collect and stash leftovers from other people's school meals to take home. The program director aggressively grabbed each item out of the kid's desk and threw it in the trash while yelling at him. In the fall of 2019, I was in a high school administrator's office. Another administrator was also present. He told me to shut the door. He said, NLS is not what we signed up for. I have a feeling that whenever we say something to the program director, he complains to Shannon, and then Shannon goes home and complains to Christina, and then we get an email or call from Christina. I took notes. How is this not a conflict of interest? On January 28, 2020, Shannon Manning sent a staff survey. My responses included, so this next part's my responses, communication between staff members and communication with students regarding clear expectations for behavior. I feel like we set students up for failure by not being consistent with some rules like hoods, food and drinks, bathroom breaks, also which behaviors warrant ISS, being sent to the office, etc. Removing social media access to laptops and access to play or watch violent sniper type video games. There is too much of this during downtime. Staff training on the population we typically serve, issues related to trauma, special education, poverty, racism. There have been some inappropriate comments and interactions between staff and students that have a potential to damage not only the individual students, but the company's reputation. The program director recently vented to me, "I don't know why these kids act the way they do. There's no excuse for their behavior. I don't care how they're raised. This should not happen. I understand that we all get frustrated at times, but there have been too many incidents of this nature directly with our students. We need to be building up self-confidence, not bringing down." That's what I wrote to them. On February 11th, 2020, about 2 weeks after responding to the survey and the climate only worsening, I reported several of my concerns to a different KCSD administrator. I told them how the clinical director of NLS was providing counseling services without a license, how the TV at Pleasant Gap AAD was always on unless I asked them to turn it off. When I questioned the TV being on, I was told that students all wear earbuds to do their work on their computers so they don't notice. The career readiness curriculum was rarely taught, if at all, due to a lack of classroom management skills or experience. Honestly, I didn't have the time to keep track of who was or wasn't doing their jobs, but it was impossible to miss the circus, and some of the things that were happening made it impossible to do my job. I barely made it back up to the CLP room after my conversation with the KCSD administrator, and I got a phone call from Shannon Manning telling me that I could not go down to the office anymore. I received a formal write-up the next day that read, "The intent of your discussion with KCSD is a new question, and the content of your conversation painted a very negative view of the program and coworkers. It must not have painted a very enough of a negative view because they actually added a CLP room to the middle school the following year and put the man who thinks Black people smell different than white people in charge. And it was a total slap in the face when I went in my kid's yearbook in 2022 and saw his picture with KCSD staff. I don't even know how that happened because I don't think he worked for you guys. Not to mention, both my job interviews with NLS were at pubs and beer was consumed by the owners. You think $700 in tacos is expensive? I wonder what the 2019 Christmas party at Champs in State College cost. It was 20 employees and their plus ones, all the alcohol we wanted for 2 hours, and a beautiful private buffet of food. My lawyer told me that once the money is exchanged, it doesn't matter how it's spent. Okay, fair. However, after hearing Shannon Manning refer to KCSD as their bread and butter, I was not impressed by the party. In fact, it was very off-putting. Perhaps NLS has found some loophole in the law where people who have no credentials to teach, nor credentials to provide counseling, can start a company working with at-risk children. They can hire the required credentialed people and then micromanage those people. This has the potential to be very dangerous. High school is a time where the trajectory of a person's life can really take off. I fear that students are being removed from our schools and kept separate and pushed through to graduation, only to be sent back to our community without learning how to be productive members of society. One of the things I enjoy about working in schools is they represent society as a whole and we learn how to work together. Keep in mind that all 4 owners of NLS live in Center County. I strongly recommend that KCSD does not do any more business with NLS and start doing the work required to figure out an alternative or change a policy. I seem to remember there being an in-house program when we moved here in 2004. Our students and taxpayers deserve better. Thank you for giving me the extra time.
Thank
hearing
you.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it'll stay on the same subject. Is it Greg?
I was her backup in case you didn't get that time. I was gonna read the other half.
Thank you. Martin?
He finally gets to do his thing.
This isn't a student government report also, we just don't have one for the last month of school. I wanted to start this off originally last week, but that this would be a different tone than the last time I was here, but after last week's meeting, it's not. So I wanted to start this off just with what I was gonna talk about last week. I want to talk about our relationship with the superintendent and student government. Dr. Redmond has been here for almost 4.5 months now. And in just those 4 months, the Bucktail student government has met with him several times now. In those meetings, the superintendent has been very receptive to our concerns and ideas. In the first meeting, he came to us to ask some things that we would like to see him work on and improve, and to hear our perspective on different things. He has worked with us and Mr. Polito to implement some of the changes that we have requested. Already, Dr. Redmond has discussed some great ideas and changes for next year and following school years that I think will really help the district moving forward. Although our students and teachers are still not happy with the decision to displace Mrs. Wagner next year, the superintendent was very clear and straightforward with us in a meeting following my comment to the board last month. He answered many questions we had and settled some other concerns we had. Overall, he's been very good with clear and open communication to us. Dr. Redmond has shown us that he is here to help and that he wants to make Keystone Central a great school district and that he is ready to start talking about real issues in this district and our buildings that our students, teachers, and community members deal with and face every day, and getting to work to finally fix them. I am hopeful that the board will continue to work with Dr. Redmond and that we can promote a better culture and a better school system. With that being said, I was unable to speak at the last meeting about this due to time constraints, but I was able to watch the rest of the meeting on YouTube shortly after. I was very surprised to see the over 3.5-hour timestamp on the video, and I'm probably crazy because I watched the entire meeting start to finish. But by the end of the meeting, I was in great dismay. I understand that meeting was a very lengthy one and lasted until very late into the night, but the conduct that was demonstrated at the board meeting last week is unacceptable. I have seen the same conduct slowly growing over the past few months, and I was concerned enough to discuss some small aspects with the superintendent. This room, this board, must be a place of constructive discussion, deliberation, and respect. This is not what was demonstrated last week. This is not the conduct that should be modeled to our students, our school faculty, or our community. As the president of our student government, I want to use this board as an example to our group and as a role model, but this conduct is not what I want to model. While I am no doubt frustrated, I have seen this board function cohesively in the past and with respect and dignity. And I know it can be done again, and it must be done again, because it is the only way that our district and our schools can succeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Martin. All right, moving right down the list. Superintendent doesn't have a report. We have 3 reports: a treasury report, financial report, student enrollment report. Can I get a motion to accept
Make that motion.
motion for E1, 2, and 3? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any questions on E1, 2, and 3? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Committees were the same from last week. So we have,
Okay,
go ahead, Elizabeth.
thank you. Chair Jeff, would you be so kind? I don't think we discussed it, the McClure meeting, and give the group an update, because I don't think it was in the minutes.
The McClure, the solar
The solar,
meeting.
yeah, yes.
Well, I know that we, basically what we talked about at that meeting, and it was very, very productive. I thought we looked at all 3 of the sites where they're proposing some different locations for the actual solar fields. And we looked, they gave us 2 or 3 options for each school. And I think we kind of honed in on one for each school, and they were going to come back and give us some options on some others. I don't have the specifics in front of me right now, but I do think that the ones we are leaning towards, I think were, and I think Dr. Redmond would probably agree that, or probably the most logical ones and the ones that would make the most sense as far as where they're located. But it was a very productive session, and I think we're going to meet again with them. They're going to bring back some further information probably next month or in August with some further, after they've done a little bit more investigation as far as a little more information that maybe solidify those things. So that's what would happen.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
And I really appreciated Bill had a question about rooftops versus land. And we learned something, that rooftops generally last longer with the solar panels on the rooftops. So that was a real learning experience. And I think McClure's done a really great job so far. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Any other questions? on
Is this stuff all gonna come up in the next work session then? So we say it all, or?
I don't know where they're gonna,
McClure.
I think
if
that
I
was
may,
set-
They said either in late July or early August, they'd have a more finalized plan. So when they get
Okay.
that to, it'll come to the next facilities committee and then after that, the next work study.
It'll be fun.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the committee reports. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion.
We already have a motion and a second.
One second.
No more questions? All those in favor accepting F1, 2, and 3 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. We're gonna kind of do these next ones in order. We need a motion for G1, authorize the superintendent to fill the vacancies. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion by Roger, second by Jeff. Any questions on G1?
Yes,
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm still not good with the fact to authorize the superintendent or anybody to just fill vacancies. You said you needed, but to do it by next month, how many are we talking?
So we'll never know exactly how many. For instance,
Well,
as
if
we
you're
heard-
gonna hire them in 3 weeks,
if
we should know.
We heard today that a professional employee was offered a position, an accepted position in another school district. That superintendent who had this permission hired that person on the spot. And so now we have to backfill. If you don't grant me this position, we won't be able to do anything. We can advertise as anticipated position, but we won't be able to do any hiring or interviewing until after July 18th. So that's almost an entire month of potential candidates being hired by other school districts. So that's an example of why districts grant this permission over the summer months so that we can make moves on critical positions.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I just, in the past, I've always voted no for this, just on principle, because if we're needed for anything, we'll back you up or do what we need to do or discuss. If it's absolutely critical, I have no problem having a special meeting or anything, but you have the power to, hire your staff. It's just when we're talking about like directors or facility supervisors or things like that, then we kind of get involved. So these aren't supervisor or director positions. These are just, I don't mean to say just, that sounds unrespectful. I'm saying they're non-director or supervisor positions.
Correct. This would be teachers, custodians,
Sure.
the
Okay.
folks that are on the kind of the front line
Sure.
workers.
Yep, I have no problem with that. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Any other questions?
I have one question,
Go ahead, Tom.
just clarification. You just said that boards give the superintendents this authority over the summer.
Mhm.
Does that mean when school starts, you no longer have that authority?
Mhm. Yes.
Yes, it's limited time. It's just for the summer months when there's some transition happening. So it's a limited time. It's only during the summer and it comes up every year just for the summer time.
Any other questions?
Yep, good.
No, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
No,
Mrs. Smith. Yes. So, yes.
Motion passed 7-1. Next up, we have to renew David Lindsay's contract as a district solicitor. It's at the same rate that he's been charging. Questions on that? Or excuse me, we need a motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion by Roger, second by Jeff. Any questions? Yes, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Butch. Just to keep things fresh, I would like to see the district administration to put out a new job description and see what else we can attract. I'm not saying anything about the gentleman's character or performance. I just think every once in a while, you might want to just take a revisit and see what else is out there. So this contract has to be voted on tonight so it can continue, correct? Okay, well, I've asked this in the past, that the school board be given a list of all contracts that we normally look at or review. Like this is a perfect example, renew. So that would be very helpful in the future. So if a contract is coming up that we normally just quote review, that the board and administration and staff can have enough time to look at whether or not maybe we should look at some fresh eyes or maybe review job description or what we're looking for, because things are always moving and we need to adapt to how those things move. So it is highly unfortunate that we're given less amount of time to really look into this, but I would like that to see that again for next year again. If any board member disagrees that we are given a list, so we all have plenty of time, whether or not it has to go to committee or some other avenue. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Nope. If not, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
No,
Mr. Scott,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino.
Motion passed 6-2. Next up, G3 is a settlement agreement that's recommended by the administration that we reject this settlement offer. We would call it something we talked about last week during executive session.
Motion.
We have a motion by Chris. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Roger. Any questions on it?
no, it's good.
Not all those in favor, excuse me. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
Motion passed 8-0. Next up, we have MOU for law enforcement officers. That's the ones we have with all the local municipalities near all our buildings and schools.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Roger, second by Chris. Any questions on the MOUs? Not roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Motion passed 8-0.
You gonna call my name?
Go ahead.
oh, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Elling.
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
We knew where you were. You made a motion.
Yeah, well, I know, but you know.
So we have G5, school improvement plans. We have a Motion,
Motion.
motion by Chris, second by Roger. Any questions?
Thanks for straightening that out.
My apologies for having an incorrect.
That's all right.
it happens,
I think we can do that
just so
with
we catch them.
a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next up, we have the minutes of the different voting and work sessions.
Motion to approve them all.
Second. to
A
approve
motion,
them all.
H1 through 6, is that what I'm hearing?
That's
Mhm.
correct.
We have a motion for H1 through 6 and a second. Motion by Chris, second by Roger. Any questions, Elizabeth?
Yes, in the minutes, there was a typo where,
Which minute?
oh, I'm so sorry, H3. Now, I just make sure, I looked at it the other day, so let's make sure it's the same. It was, oh, for goodness sakes, I'm so sorry, I didn't highlight it. Oh, it was where the superintendent to help with relations with the board members is, yes, here it is. It is under section 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was a typo. It is part of the superintendent's job not to work on board member relations. So the word not is not in there. And the reason given is that well, we can discuss what was discussed during the meeting if you want to hear, but that word, it's not the superintendent's job to work on personnel issues with some board members. It actually is more conducive and better if to stand back. It's similar to like a CEO.
It says the superintendent shall not initiate, support, and initiate interpersonal or professional conflict between the board members or come in the middle of board conflict.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. There's in paragraph 1, under section 2, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Says Dr. Redmond stated and he is already doing this. And then the second sentence is missing the word not.
Okay,
It is part of the superintendent's job not to work on board member
or
relations.
it is not part of the superintendent's job.
Yeah, it was just a typo.
Yeah, because it says it above it, but it doesn't say there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it happens. Okay, thank
So
you.
We're gonna have a correction in a minute.
I'll make a motion to make that correction and move forward.
Second. So we have a motion by Chris to
Edit.
take the minutes 1 through 6 with the edit to 3, and second by Roger. Any other questions?
Are you sure about that, Dr. I thought you were just respectfully disagreed with that and said it is part of your job to work with members and any
So-
conflicts.
That one line, I think, is a reflection of what we were talking about. And in my experience, it has always been part of my job to help the board work together as a team. And so I think in that regard, it's, that part of the minutes isn't stating, it's a reflection of what I said in the meeting.
Yes.
And that it's accurately reflected in that, because the minutes are reflecting what I said. And above that, the committee made it clear that that's not the way they want the policy written.
Okay, so maybe that's how you want it rewritten, is that Redmond stated.
That's the way
does say
reads
that.
already.
It's exactly what it's.
That's the
Okay,
way
it
reads right now.
seemed confusing to me, but if it's not confusing to anybody else. Okay,
Okay, now we get that all clarified.
I rescind my, second.
We have a motion and second. Any other questions? Page 1 through 6. If not, all those in favor
Just a
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now to get down to the business. Okay, most of these are gonna take roll call votes. It's gonna take a while, so. I1, bills for payment. We have a motion for,
Motion.
Second.
we have a motion by Roger, second by Jeff. Any questions on the bill for payment?
Yes,
Go ahead, Chris.
on page 4. That $6,380.04 bill from Eagle Response to Liberty Curtain
I'm sorry, where are you?
on page 4
Page 4?
of the bills.
Oh,
The Eagle Response Services for the spill at Liberty Curtain that nobody knew about and it was not discussed and showed up to come out of the general fund. That should come out of Liberty Curtain's budget, not out of the general fund.
I see valid. Well, that's one thing we were discussing last time is that the finance department manager
I
is
think,
gonna start making a spreadsheet.
I think if I recall correctly, Rob talked about that last week. There was a spill on site that no one knew about from an old septic tank. When they started digging, they found the oil. They had to take it out and put it into a dumpster, a line dumpster. And Eagle does their environmental stuff for the district. Eagle came down and remediated the oil spill that was in the ground. Had to be samples sent, I believe. And once it's approved to be sent to a landfill, it was taken for the landfill. So that's the total of all that bill. The reason I think Rob said last week it wasn't taken out of Liberty Curtain because it's just unexpected expense that was there in the ground before. If we would not have been building Liberty Curtain, we might have discovered it and probably would have had to do the exact same work anyway.
Okay, but we did two change orders to add it up to $2,400 and change to deal with that. The Eagle thing never even came up until last week. So I don't think, because that was part of that, I think that needs to come out of the Liberty Curtain Fund that you have. That's all.
I agree. That spill happened because they found the tanks
Right,
that cost us $2,400 to have removed.
right.
Had they not removed those $2,400 tanks, the $6,000 spill wouldn't have taken place.
Joey, can that be paid out of the Liberty Curtain Fund?
If you recall, we did commit some of the general fund money to the Liberty Curtain project. So if it would be fine, it is for the same, like I said, we committed that, the surplus of last year. So it can come out of the general fund for Liberty Curtain expenses.
It'll
Yeah.
go on the list.
Because we put a bunch of extra money to the side for contingencies, so.
And there was, we had money that, like Joey just said, we set aside from the general fund
mhm.
to help pay the bills, because we didn't take the full bond out for Liberty Curtain to help pay the bills out of the general fund. So we can either pay it out of the Liberty Curtain Fund, and when something else comes up, take it out of the general fund, or pay this out of general fund. It's your, how you desire.
It was, the general fund was being used for, if I remember, site prep, which this is part of.
Well, if we take out a big grant or a loan for a school, everything should be covered in it. We did two change orders and we argued about that. But we went ahead and passed them because they were instant, happened right now. This was never, ever discussed until last week.
Yeah,
If we'd
my-
have been told this could be coming, maybe a different story, but it should not come out of the general fund. It should come out of the money for Liberty Curtain. Otherwise, you're giving full access to, Joe, just take this out of the general fund. Nobody will know about it that way.
That's not the way it works.
My question, Jeff, my question is, if we can use the general fund to pay for this event, why did we have to have a change of order for the
As-
other ones?
As Joni just said, there was extra money set aside in the general fund for that type of thing, specifically earmarked for the Liberty Curtain project. So if we don't have any, we don't have to use that money. However, for things exactly like this, that's why that money was set aside, because we didn't want to have to take out an additional bond, an additional cost of the bond. So as part of that, we were able to put aside some money for these type of contingencies. There's also money built into the contract. If I recall, 200 and some $1,000 for those kind of things. So you can pay for it either way, but if that money, if the money that we have set aside as part of the general fund for that specific use, I mean, it doesn't matter because they're both earmarked for the project. So you either take it out of one or the other. And
Probably
I
the
would,
simplest thing to do, just pay it out of Liberty Curtain Fund. Wanna
I
agree
think that's a great
I
idea.
think that's
Yeah.
the best idea
Yeah, because
because
she's gonna be making that spreadsheet of all the expenses and just keep it all in one pool over there.
That way we can see what it's costing us.
Yeah.
That we're staying within
Okay.
the budget lines and everything else.
So we have a correction for bills for payment, it's still gonna be paid, it's just gonna come out of a different funding source, correct?
I understand. It can still be paid out of general fund because we committed some general fund money to Liberty Curtain.
Right.
And it is tracked, all the expenses are tracked separately.
Sure.
So I can run a spreadsheet and show you. So we don't have to move any money.
It's coming out of the
I think how it
contingency
is,
fund.
how it is accounted for is correct. We have it allocated to Liberty Curtain expenses paid for by the general fund with committed funds,
But it's coming out of the contingency fund,
committed,
That's-
committed.
Committed.
the committed contingency fund.
So
Yes, please, Joni, just yes or no?
I
Fund
think the
39.
Contingency fund is what's throwing everyone off. Your use of the term contingency fund. I think what Joni's trying to say is, we knew going into this, we had to take money from our general fund to help pay for Liberty Curtain.
And that's a contingency fund.
No, it's our general fund.
So
The
there's,
There's committed funds within the general fund that is specifically designated for Liberty Curtain.
Right.
So it comes up in the accounting as an expense for the Liberty Curtain.
Where
project.
was like the
con-
$1.6
contingency-
million set off to? the
Correct.
side?
The
that's
contingency
that.
fund,
Okay,
there was a contingency fund set aside with a couple $100,000, like Jeff said, for unknown expenses that we could occur, like for the
Okay.
change orders and stuff. That's, you're talking about two different things. That's what I'm trying to clarify for you. The contingency fund is that set, and the general fund is here, because we knew we had to take money out of the general fund to help pay for Liberty Curtain.
so
Right.
this,
So Fund 39 is the bond money.
yes.
That's for everything that we projected would happen per the bond. So that's, and part of that is a contingency amount that we built in Fund 39.
Mhm.
And we'll have to take out another bond eventually, but we built that in. We also committed funds, remember with the surplus last year, part of general fund, we committed for unknown expenses for exactly this.
So
but-
there's two contingency funds, technically.
You can call it that. It's committed. We committed general fund money
Oh, I
for,
didn't realize that. My
yes,
fault.
yes. Contingency is part of the general, is part of Fund 39, which is the bond money.
That's clarifying.
It did a little bit, but I'm still having problems with the logistics of the whole thing. We removed the tank and we had to file change order. And when we removed the tanks, or the tanks were removed, the spill took place. Did we not think that there was going to be another charge, that we didn't add a change order at that point?
Perhaps another way to look at it is that
Because I'm looking at the mechanics of it.
yeah, I hear you. The work that was done wasn't done by any of the contractors, Lobar, Crabtree. It wasn't in that. It was a completely different contractor that Rob called in to take care of the spill. So it wasn't part of, technically, it wasn't part of the Liberty Curtain cost project. It was something that happened, but it wasn't any of the contract that was associated with them. It was the
Eagle,
Eagle,
but
environmental
when the
that came to take care of it.
contractor, which was Lobar maybe,
Yeah,
that
Lo-
removed the
yeah,
tank?
yep.
So when they removed the tank, the spill took place.
Now, I think that, remember what Rob was saying, the spill happened through the years. The
No,
spill was,
no, it was,
Oh, it was in the
as
tank.
you're saying, Lobar pulled it up and set it on its side and then stuff spilled
okay,
out.
I thought it was,
So the change
I
order
thought the
was
ground
to
was
take
contaminated.
the tank up and get rid of it. In the process, we had this spill happen. So
Right.
then we hired an outside contractor that had nothing to do with Lobar or anybody else to come clean that stuff up.
Right, and that's why I don't understand why we didn't have to do a change order back then for that, because we should have known that that was gonna cost us.
Well, but it wasn't a change order to the project. It was just something, it was an unexpected thing that happened during the process of the construction. So there's, in the way I see it is there's things that we don't anticipate that we have to change in order to, like a pipe that has to run through a different section or something like that. That's typically kind of how those
Okay,
change
I-
orders come up. But in this case, it was a spill that happened. It wasn't, we're not asking any of the contractors that are underneath the Liberty Curtain project to fix it. We hired another contractor that was hired separately from any of the Liberty Curtain project process.
We
take
had
care of
to,
that.
we had to because of their qualifications.
Right, yeah.
The contractors doesn't have that hazmat.
Right.
Eagle does.
Agreed.
okay. I have a question for what you just said. Being somebody that's been involved in hazmat most of my life, why was the tank not emptied before they pulled it out of the ground? Because that's the way it should be done. And if that's the case, if they didn't do it, they should almost be responsible for the spill.
I think looking at the tank, it was filled with sand and debris. It looked like tires and dirt and stuff like that was in there. When the tank was set on the side, then underneath all that stuff, there was the liquid that came out.
Yeah, it sounds unfortunate. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or right, but it does happen where things just don't get tested.
Was this just an open box or was it a tank?
I think it was a vertical cylinder.
Okay. But was the top open? How
Yeah,
would they
yeah,
get?
the top was open, right?
Okay.
So I do have, I'm sorry, I have one last question. and It's not related to this, but so is it possible, Joni, at the next meeting, just let us know how much is in the contingency fund? I thought, like you said, it was like 200,000 something. And then how much is actually set aside in the general fund? So we know the total amount of those two pools, please. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion, second. Any other questions on the bills for payment? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
Next up, we have a list of our depositories, it's different banks that we deal with. We have a motion for the depositories.
So
I'll make-
moved.
Jeff made a motion.
Second.
Roger, second. Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd like to change the second page of that and still where it says investments, one signature required. I'd like to see that say two signatures, because no one person should have the ability to transfer any type of monies, grants, anything, anywhere. That should always be done with two signatures.
Oh, may I ask?
And even though Joni said it is done that way, this paperwork needs to state that. Just change the one to a two, that's all.
I see great value in that because it also protects that one person. I do see great value in that. It should be an easy peasy, just put two.
Actually, it says
does
that's
say
for
two
investment, not
signatures
for
required.
check. That's not for check writing.
This is investment.
That's to
No,
add
this
in
is
to
for
invest.
transferring funds. Investments, yes. On the checks, it has to be two people, but on this, it says investments, one signature.
It would just protect the employee. I mean, really. I don't
Because
think-
with this, even down at the bottom, it says wire transfers. The fiscal operations supervisor, the treasurer, or the president are authorized to unilaterally initiate wire transfers of district monies when such method of transfer is legal, appropriate, and the best interest of the district. I don't see why there's a problem changing it from one signature required to two. It protects everybody.
Typically, they're just transfers and we don't really sign anything. They're just transferred transfers. So for example, the fiscal operations supervisor will initiate the transfer and there has to be a second approval on it. So there's always been two-step process.
Well, I understand that, but then why the argument about changing it to where it says two signatures required?
I guess we don't call them signatures, we call them approvals. And it requires two
Then we
approvals.
should have two approvals.
We can do that.
Retain
I
that.
think that would be.
This can be just changed from one signature
Yeah,
to fire.
So, yeah, it's a
If
safety.
it takes two signatures on a piece of paper to move money, why shouldn't it take two approvals to move money if you're doing it electronically?
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm
Good
dumb
point.
when
You
it
have
comes
to
to money matters, but
I'm okay with this. I just want that one.
You're gonna
word
fix that?
changed.
It's a good
Okay.
catch, good catch.
All right, so we have a motion. We just have to modify the motion to accept it as corrected or as modified. Jeff, you willing to change your motion?
Yes.
Roger, you willing to change your second?
yes.
So it's gonna have a motion and second to do the depositories as corrected. Any questions?
Thank
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, resolution 150, the Homestead Farmstead Act. And we need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
A motion for,
Second,
we have a second. Any questions on Homestead Farmstead? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Resolution 151, that's just the end of the year budget transfer. It's closing out the
Make a
account.
motion.
We have a motion by Roger, a second
Second.
by Jeff. Any questions on that?
That is just to make things right for the audit, correct?
Just closing out the end of the year stuff.
Johnny's shaking her head, yes.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. This is pretty much just the same thing for the committed funds.
Make a motion.
Or a motion by Chris, and a
Second.
second by Roger. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, it's all good.
We're down to the bids. Can I get a motion for a couple of those, please?
I'll make a motion for 6 through 17.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second for I 6 through 17.
Combined 6 through 17.
Yes,
6 through 17, correct?
yes.
Any questions on I 6 through 17? Not. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I 18, HVAC maintenance agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, well, that's,
No, there's two.
Well,
different-
actually, yeah.
There's two
we have to
contracts.
choose one.
Yes, we do.
I make a motion that we use BSC Mechanical. They may only be $111 more, but they are a county taxpayer. They are local,
I second that.
I would
motion.
agree with that.
and they're guaranteeing a 2-hour response time.
That 2-hour response time got me.
You know,
Yeah, I thought Rob said last
I
time
mean, it's-
before did also.
as much as
So
possible.
we have a motion and a second to initiate the contract with BSC Mechanical for the HVAC maintenance agreement. Any questions on that?
I think that whenever possible, we should keep things local. I think we should look for
Mhm.
local
We-
contractors to do things,
We can do better.
you know.
We can do better.
No additional questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. BSC Mechanical. Next up is I 19. It's a planned maintenance agreement proposal. We have 2 agreements on there, one from McClure and one from BSC and
I
Mechanical.
make a motion, we take BSC.
Yes.
Once again, they're a local taxpayer
And they're
and they are
cheaper this time.
$2,348 cheaper than the other one.
And a counterbalance, that's what I.
Yeah, so that
And
counterbalance.
I
second that motion.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Chris and a second by Tom to contract with BSC Mechanical. Any questions?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? PSBA dues invoice. 24-25. Motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Elizabeth,
I'll second
second by Roger. Any questions on the PSBA? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 21.
I think we could go 21 through 25, really.
Yeah, I think so too.
I 21 through 25.
Yes.
Do we have a motion by Chris? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Roger. Any questions on I 21 through 25? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I 26, the Nittany Learning Service.
I think that right now we should set that on the back burner and look at some other options and investigate this because we haven't really had a lot of time to dig down into it. I see at 4:57 today, you sent out something on it. and I haven't even had time to read it yet. So I'd like to just put that on the back burner so we can read what we found out from the solicitor and from everybody else, and let's bring that up at the next meeting and look at it.
We have a
Well,
motion to table. Before we get into questions, do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
We have a second by Elizabeth. Any questions on the table? I have one. Is there any time restraints we're gonna get into by not signing a contract now?
I don't know, excuse me, I don't know. I would like to have it, something secured by the start of next school year. We have some students who ended up at the end of the year there and we would like to have them placed in an AEDY at the start of the school year as well. So some continuity of services in the AEDY. of
So
some
we
sort.
could cover it by the next work session.
So we have a motion and a second to table. Any other questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
And if we could be so kind as, looking, I mean, Dave Peters was beautiful with all the, he gave me an education and taught me so much in his email. Thank you, Dave, wherever you are. So this I didn't know. If memory serves correctly, the previous administration told us that we can't have in-house services. And then not that Dave mentioned, but I looked deeper into it, the LEAs, the Local Education Agency. It appears that State College School District does it, Penns Valley School District does it. So I would also like to request the board to consider an administration that we invite a guest presenter. They could come in person or Zoom from the Pennsylvania Department of Education, from the Alternative Education for Disruptive Youth Office for Safe Schools, and invite an representative to come discuss with us what are our options. And so we know administration has a good pulse on it, the public does, because this LEA program, I want to learn a lot more about it. If 2 other local school districts are doing it, I think it's our responsibility to look into it. Does anyone disagree?
No, I agree, because I haven't heard a lot about it, but what I have heard, I don't like. Plain and simple.
Just a point of clarification, Elizabeth, are you saying we should run our own program?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't know enough to even discuss the issue until someone from the department comes and chats with us.
Are you-
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
as Mr. Peters said last time at our last meeting, there is in a 3-county area, we have one program.
I think
Because
we're getting a little bit off topic.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think we have a motion and a second to table it. If you have any questions concerning the tabling it, I'll entertain those questions. If not, can we have a vote, please? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Lynch,
No, I mean, yes to table.
Yes.
Yes to
yes.
table,
I'm
no
gonna
to not to
clarify.
pass.
Yes means to table.
Yes means,
You're
No
voting
means
to table.
Right.
Yes.
Yes means to table, no means
a
not to
very
table.
big yes to table. Yes, yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
yes,
Mr. Knopf.
Yes.
Can we?
The item has
address
been
the-
tabled till next.
Now, we can all read up on this and go through it, but I also like her suggestion of having somebody come explain to us what different options are.
We'll work on that for the next work session.
Thanks.
Okay, next up is 27, a Murky Behavioral Health Agreement.
Isn't that one in Cartwheel, isn't 26, 27, 28 all basically the same thing?
28 is similar, but it's not the same. It's just billing for access through, it's a program through the IU. So it's similar, yes. So if you want to
Okay.
make a motion, take 27, 28, 29.
Yeah,
I'll second
so we know what we're gonna do.
We have a motion for I-27, I-28, I-29. We have a second.
It's a
Any,
motion to table.
no, a motion to vote on those, I believe.
What did you want to do? Didn't you want to table it?
Yeah, 27 and 28 are in the same group with 26, right?
No.
No,
No,
no.
okay.
they're- no, they're completely
That's why I
separate.
didn't think they were. That's
No,
why
they're
I
not.
was wondering.
Marikey helps students with autism and emotional disturbance.
That's what I
It's
thought.
Different
Yeah.
groups of.
That's
students.
why I was okay with passing them three.
So,
'Cause
we
that's a different thing.
yes, we have a motion for 27, 28, and 29. And we have a second by
Second.
Roger. Any questions on I 27, 28, 29? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're down to I 30.
I make a motion, we take 30 through 37. That's all stuff we've all talked about before.
I'll second that.
The only thing I believe we have to do, I believe we have to do 36 and 37 separately.
Oh, yeah,
Because
because
it's-
of the real estate.
It's a
yeah.
real
Oh,
estate
okay.
exoneration.
So,
I'd like to
So
make a
30
motion-
through 35.
Yeah,
yes.
Good catch. Good
I
catch.
30 through 35. We have a motion and second for I 30 through 35.
30 through 35.
Any questions on I 30 through 35? Yes, Elizabeth?
Last time I asked if there was cameras on their transportation vehicles, and I was hoping that
Ms. Ott said there was.
it was confirmed.
Yeah.
It's part of the contract with the.
I just thought, thank you.
Yeah, she told us that last meeting.
You're right. Thank you. Good. good.
Okay. Any other questions on 30 through 35? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I 36, I need a motion for a real estate exoneration.
Motion.
request.
Second,
We have a motion by Chris, second by Roger. Any questions on that? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mrs. Donick, oh, sorry, Mr. Elling,
yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes,
Ms. Lynch.
Yes.
motion passed 8-0. I need the same thing for real estate tax refund.
Motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion by Chris, second by Roger. Any questions on the tax refund? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes,
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
motion passed 8-0. Next up we have is the Bucktail high wall repair. If you call it a wall above the gymnasium. the Eastern side of the building, above the locker room, boys locker room. There's damage, they found the wall was starting to fall. So I need a motion for the high wall
Make
repair.
the motion.
Motion by Roger, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Tracy. Any questions?
Yeah, on these projects, I'd like to see more than one bid. When you're spending $84,000, there should be more than one bid. I'm not saying no to the project, I'm just saying we need to look for different bidders. 'cause-
I would agree with that. I think that we need to make an effort to get bids or get formal rejections if nobody wants to do
Well, I
it. There's
think-
plenty of, wait, excuse me, there's plenty of local people around. And I know that I've heard from people that they would like to be doing work. Now supposedly it's being advertised. They haven't seen it. I don't know. I
I'm
don't,
getting the
I
same
don't know
thing.
anything about this. This got nothing to do with this. I'm saying for going forward, we need to make an effort. And how many contractors of any given type are we gonna have in the school district? Can somebody pick up a telephone and call them and say, hey, do you want to bid on this project?
There's a contractor right down from the school. This one's from Denver.
I just think we need to look at getting more bids, that's all.
I agree, but what I think we're doing our due diligence, advertising it online, advertising on the website, advertising it in the Lockhaven paper. I don't know what else we can do except like Bill said, call every contractor. But then what happens if you miss one?
I've been told by several contractors that they don't see the ads.
Butch, that
last-
website that you talked about?
Go
Oh.
ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Tom.
That website that you talked about is the website where contractors pay to join that organization? Is that the
don't-
website?
I don't know. All I know is Rob said it's a contract.
I thought that's what he had said, was that was a website that contractors paid to get in on a directory.
answer
Rob is here, is that, that's right?
Yep.
Yeah, on that, we do advertise on our website, the Keystone Central School District website, under the bid tab. We also advertise on the in the local papers, and it also gets pushed out to what I used to call the Dodge reports, whatever, where the contractors, they pick it up through like the Builders Exchange and those sorts of things. Some of these people look for that stuff, some don't. Some of these bids, when they were advertised at the same time, I had 10 people on call on one, and the other stuff, we had nothing. So I don't know what we do to make these people see it. I hesitate to call individual contractors, because then if I miss one, then they said it wasn't a fair vote. So we have to be cautious with just calling contractors and saying, hey, vote on this. They have to see our advertisements and know where to look for them. We can tell them that we have advertisements coming out and to check our website, those sorts of things. But just to call, if I call 10 contractors and don't pick up the last two, then we have, we're showing favoritism towards those 10 contractors and not those
That's
two.
valid.
So I'm cautious with what I do with that.
Thank
Okay,
you,
I
Rob.
respectfully disagree with that.
So I think
I think that in general, we can look, there's got to be a way with some sort of a database that somebody that actually understands computers, not me, can go through and see, we got a limited geographic area within the school district. That's what I'm talking about. Now, my sister worked for the Army, civil service employee for the Army. She rose, her GS ranking made her the equivalent of a lieutenant colonel. Her last job was working directly for the commanding general at Fort Monmouth. Her job was to call and find women and minority businesses to apply for things. That's all. I think that we can do the same thing here with the appropriate contractors when we've got projects to do.
Well, the
I think it'd
county-
look a lot better too with our constituents.
I agree. I think we have to do a better job
Yeah.
looking for multiple contractors to bid on jobs.
Or find out why they don't want to
Hey.
bid.
But
Let me ask you this. Can we make a page on the district website that states specifically upcoming bids and the date that they're due, so that we know who's what? And that way a contractor, any contractor, can go to our website, look at that page, say, well, I'd like to bid on this, this, and this.
I think Rob said we're doing that.
We do. We have that now, Chris.
Okay,
It's under the
good.
business section on our website, and that's where most of them are picking it up and seeing it.
Maybe that's the problem, is our because when you see the county puts out something for bid, not that it's the same thing, but the county gets all these different bids all the time, and we're doing something wrong that is probably fixable. So,
Okay.
Yeah, if you have to dig through the website to find the page to do it, that's, could be a little tough.
Okay,
we can do
We
it.
need
we
to
have-
fix it.
we have a motion and second for the Bucktail High Wall repair. Any other questions on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I-39, that's the air handler units 1, 2, and 3, to install them, the LC control units. Need a motion on that?
Make the motion.
Second.
I heard Jeff say second. Any questions on the air handling unit installation? Not. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, the HRG stormwater piping repair. That's just a contract engineer to do a site survey.
Butch, I think we need to back up to number 39. There's actually two different things in that. We have a price from BCS Mechanical to install, and we have a price from McClure to install, and then we have a price for the controls to be put on there. So there's two different things we're voting on there, for the install and then for the installation of the control system.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see anything from
He's
McClure.
right.
I see Keystone. Keystone.
I had well, there's one from McClure. I missed it.
I didn't see McClure. I see,
Yeah,
It's the.
McClure's $31,943.
McClure's linked wrong.
Second one is McClure, second one down.
okay, it's listed in the,
And then there's one for BSC Mechanical. But it doesn't look like they're both
Doing the same thing.
doing the same thing. There's $10,000 difference between them, and it doesn't look like they're both bidding on the same work.
They are bidding on the same work. They both got the same scope. So they're bidding to install air handlers 1, 2, and 3. And then after they're installed, there's the controls that need added to them from Automated Logic, which is the 108,563. That's by itself. And then you have the installation, which McClure, I'm trying to open them here as we're speaking. I think McClure was
31,943.
and then the other BCS was
BSC
the
was
higher.
41,000.
Right. One of them says they're getting rid of the air handling units. The other one doesn't mention it at all. And both of them are doing different things here. So
It's just how they.
$2,000 difference, and we're back to, okay, one's a local company and one's not.
I need someone to make a motion in for,
I'll make a motion for BSC because the $2,000 difference makes up for the other jobs. It all works out even from before.
Looks like
This one's a $10,000.
it's a $10,000 difference.
It's 10,000?
Yeah.
One's 31 and one's 40.
31.
Okay, yes, you're right. So I pull that motion back.
so we have a motion for one of those, please.
McClure.
So we have a motion by Roger for McClure. Do we have a
Second,
Second was whom? I'm sorry.
me.
Jeff. Any questions on the air handler installation contract? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not opposed? So I should handle that.
Then we have to vote on the Keystone Central one for Automated Logic too.
There's just the one bid on that.
This one bid.
Right. There's one bid again.
Okay,
That's for $108,563.
so we need a motion
Make a
for
motion.
accept the Keystone.
Second,
We have a motion by Rogers, second by, I thought I heard Chris first. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, now we're down to the stormwater repair engineering study. Have a motion, please?
Move. So move.
Motion by Jeff, second,
Second.
second by Roger. Any questions?
Yeah, once again, there's only one bid. And I spoke with Alan Euler from Euler and Associates, who's done work for us in the past. And I know Alan personally. And he said he'd like to bid on this too, but he didn't know anything about it.
Elizabeth, your question?
Oh, okay. Yes, last time I tried to articulate that I'm not seeing any other options here except to replace a water line to discharge water. This isn't a study, it's to reline a pipe that's already existing. So to me, this is not, this is not anything that I would vote for. And this is the reason why, is stormwater management today is totally different from stormwater management when this building was built. And I think we can do a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this is a critical issue, that the school is going to be shut down if we ask administration to look into giving us options that not only would hopefully keep most of that stormwater out of the river, but may also become an educational stopping point, and they're called bioswales or something else. I'm not saying that is the only answer. I'm just saying this goes against the Pennsylvania Wilds Initiative. It goes against all the tourism we're trying to do. That water was so polluted when this school was built that everyone saw it as an open sewer. Today, it is our bread and butter for tourism. And anything we can do to support that, I think we should at least look into it. So that's what I'm asking.
I
I'm
think there's
definitely,
other options we can look at.
I
What other-
believe, if you read it again, it's going to be HRD will provide to explore options to replace the existing pipe and to reline the existing pipe, along with designing a new outfall structure and riverbank restoration.
which means the pipe goes to the river.
It means they're going to explore options. It doesn't say anything about lining the pipe. It says
This is just gonna look, this is just an engineer
engineering
that's
study
gonna look at things.
to see
So
what we can do.
I would say that we need to, since I know for a fact there's other people out there that would like to bid on it, I'd like to check the engineering costs and see what we can do. This isn't a must-do right now thing.
No, in fact, this is just looking at
If we can
what they
save
need
our
to
district
do.
and taxpayers a
Sorry.
bunch of money, we need to implore that option all the time.
Yes, to me, when I'm reading this contract is we're paying an engineer to look at an existing pipe and how we can reline the pipe and what it would take to restore the bank before the water is discharged into the river. And I say we table this and we take it back to the facilities committee, or we table this and the board requests that administration look at what other options does DEP offer us in the Clinton County Conservation District. What
As-
other schools have done it, why can't we?
As of now, we have a motion and a second to approve this project. I'd like to have a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Sorry, I was out of the room. What are we voting on?
On the Buck Hill Stormwater Project, have an engineering study.
No.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
No.
Mr. Scaff,
No,
Mrs. Smith.
No.
So it should be 4-4. The motion is denied then.
five
Five,
no's,
three.
3 yeas.
Who done that?
I voted no.
Tracy voted no, I'm sorry.
Can that go back out to bid then and we redo it?
It has to be rewritten. We
Yeah,
have
so
to have-
we'll look at options.
Thank you,
Okay,
thank you.
I
Dr.
can give
Whitman.
you some other people that are interested in
Yeah.
it.
Send me an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
41, Central Mountain Middle School canopy removal.
Yay.
We
Kind
need
of
to
like the same thing, 41 and 42. There's other people out there that want to bid on this stuff that say they didn't know anything about it.
I don't know what else to do when we're following all of the procedures that, and I'll definitely take a closer look at those procedures.
Thank you.
Don't get me wrong.
Please,
I'll take a look at and make sure that we're doing what.
'cause we're
both what we
doing
need
all
to
this
do,
work at one school. Why are we doing two different bids on it?
different
I can tell you
projects.
what the contractors are saying.
These are two different projects.
It's all at one school. You keep it under $25,000, then you don't have to put it out for bid. And that's what contractors, local ones here are saying. That's done just so that they don't have to put it out for
These are
bid,
two completely separate things. And that's the thing, that the canopy was decided on years ago that it needed to be removed.
right?
And then the bleachers were something that happened because they inspected the bleachers and found them that they had to be taken down. So
Well,
there were
there's-
never any tie between these two things.
There's other companies that want to bid on it that
I-
didn't know
I hear you.
anything about
I
it.
hear you. And like I said, I'm gonna take a look at how we're advertising and see if we can
Okay.
improve on that for sure.
Either we,
But I don't think these are connected projects.
Hey, Butch, on this project, both of these projects, this was part of a sealed bid process. They they were advertised in both papers. They were advertised online, and it was a sealed bid. They were due, I think, June 6th at 2 o'clock. That's the ones I was saying. We advertised that and the fire alarm together. We had a big response to the fire alarm, so I know it was out there. People saw it. That because we grouped the advertisement together for sealed bids being received, and there's nothing with the dollar amount that matters at that point as far as 25,000 whatever, because we went to sealed bid. Anything over 22,500 requires a sealed bid procedure, which we followed, and we received one bid. Nobody showed up for the pre-bid meeting. Nobody showed up for both pre-bid meetings that day. Nobody came to.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the Central Mountain Middle School canopy removal. Any other questions? I don't know if Rob clarified anything or not, but. No, I don't remember. Who made the motion on that? Okay.
So moved.
All right, we need a motion by Jeff. We need a second.
Second.
Now, any questions on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, no.
So we have 2 noes. Central Mountain Middle School bleacher and press box removal. We need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the bleacher and press box removal. Any questions on that?
Which I said.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask this the other night. Obviously that scrap metal's worth some big bucks, and I see the school wants to keep, I think, 25% of it. I'm just hoping that, it would have been nice if we could have kept that for scrap, maybe, so we could cash it in, but I'm hoping that the bid, they're saying, well, of course, we have X amount of pounds of aluminum, and hopefully that bid is, somehow taking that into account, because that's a nice chunk of change of what that scrap metal's worth. I don't know, it
I agree
seems
with
kind of
that,
high.
but Can we ask Rob if there's any
Rob,
thought on that?
Any thoughts on that, Rob?
Yes, I did calculate. They calculated weight based on how much stuff is there, what have you, and I believe that their bid represents. They said it would be higher if they didn't have the value for the aluminum that was there, because they said you guys want to keep 25% of that, and they said, how are we going to calculate that? And I told them we're just going to measure out, and we need approximately 25% saved. So they're calculating the weight of the aluminum
Right.
to kind of offset their cost for the removal.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's real important.
Thanks, Rob. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Mill
Just-
Hall fire alarm. system.
Elizabeth,
Hmm.
just so you know, scrap aluminum is 41 cents a pound right now.
Yeah, they got a couple of seats there.
The Mill Hall fire alarm system.
I make a motion. There's 2 bids on that. There's one from BA Mikesell, and there's one from Keystone Security. The Keystone Security bid is $16,697 cheaper than BA Mikesell, which was $63,850. I make a motion that we send that off to Keystone Security.
So we have a motion to hire Keystone Security for the Mill Hall fire alarm replacement. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second by Tom. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Central Mountain High School water heater for installation of domestic hot water heater. I need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Tracy, second by Jeff. Any questions on the water heater bid?
The only thing I ask is that we look at getting more than one bid.
Again, I've heard from plumbing contractors that they didn't know anything about it and they would have liked to do the work. Now,
Find it
I
wild
suppose
that all
it's,
these-
I suppose it's possible that we just have a lot of bad businessmen in the area, but it could also be a problem elsewhere.
Duly noted. We need to do a better job advertising,
Yeah,
getting it out there to the public.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the
Okay.
county does. Well,
Okay.
anyways, go ahead, sorry.
So we have a motion and second. There's no other questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The QA plus, that was just a contract with a inspection firm that we needed to have for Liberty Curtin School. The company was bought out by another owner and just switched names, so we had to change the contract to signify that. And I think Rob said when he did that, he renegotiated and he saved, I think, $30,000. That's not a number I heard Rob say.
That's correct.
So I need a motion on the QA plus.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by
Second.
Roger, second by Jeff. Any questions?
Yes,
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
thank you. Page 3. Rob, your name's still on this, and I understand why, but TikTok. Is it possible, would it cause too much of a problem when on page 3 it says contact facilities, Mr. Robert Pasella?
Yeah, we can change that. It's easier.
Oh, who are we gonna change it to? I'm just
Me
curious.
temporarily.
Okay. That'll be really helpful. Thank you.
Who's it gonna be temporary? You.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth, for that catch. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Policies, Jay. Want to make a motion to take the policies?
We'll make the motion.
I'll second.
J 1 through 4?
Yes.
I
No,
wanna pull 2 and 3.
Okay, let's do J 1. We have a motion for J 1, policy 706. We have a second for J 706. Any questions on policy 706?
No, it's good. Good.
Just a reminder, these are just first reads, all of them.
Yeah. Roger, Tracy, first. and second. Okay. No other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? How about policy 012, board superintendent relationship?
I make the motion and that gets held back and goes
Point
back.
of
to
order,
board
Mr.
policy.
President.
Go ahead.
These are our first reads. They are not second reads. So therefore, at this point, they are just being put out there, if I'm not mistaken.
correct.
Whereas in the second read is whenever we actually vote on. Is that
That's right,
correct?
but there needs to be corrections, so it needs to go back to policy so that the corrections can be gone over and be made to get it right.
Can
I
you tell
think-
me what corrections you're asking for? Because
Okay.
we reviewed the minutes and we reviewed the video.
Okay,
I would prefer if we discuss it at the policy.
I would too. I'd rather discuss it
Yeah,
at
'cause here's not
policy.
the
Okay. good.
So I'd like to hold that one in.
Table, we like,
I would
Number
like to
3,
hear
I'd
what,
like to hold them both so we can go through it at policy meeting.
so we have a motion to table policy 2 and 3.
Are we tabling it or are we referring
We're tabling it back to the policy committee.
the motion is to move it back to policy. refer it back
Yes.
to policy.
Okay, the motion is to return them to the policy committee. Do we have a
well,
second?
isn't that redundant? I mean,
The whole point of
The-
it is for the whole board to look at these and discuss them.
When we get it right,
Bring it
where it's
back.
read right by the policy committee, then we bring it back.
I looked at everything too and reread the minutes and everything, and this reads the way it was.
No,
was
it
presented
doesn't.
to us.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a
No, what-
second?
what is wrong with it?
Excuse
I'm-
me, we're not at the question mode yet. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Chris, a second by Bill to return policy 2 and 3, 012 and 903 back to the policy committee. Any questions on that?
Yes, I'd like to know why are we, what's the problem with it, with both of these?
May I
Okay.
please?
Since
Go ahead.
I'm not a
When
member
we
of
were
the policy
discussing
committee,
it-
I would like to know.
Sure, no,
She is a
absolutely.
member of policy.
I
Um,
am not a member of the policy.
Okay.
Oh,
committee.
that's
Tell-
okay, it's
I
okay.
will tell you who's going to speak. if you
Okay.
would. Okay. Don, you relinquish the floor. Thank
Yeah.
you. Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. We left it that the administration was going to come back with potential ARs for our review. And the ARs didn't come back to us until we saw it on the agenda. That was one thing. And the other thing is, at least from what my memory is, the public comment section, we never came to a consensus. We just felt that this is something we need to discuss further to get some more information. So both of those were never supposed to be moved to the agenda. They were, it must have been a misunderstanding, but they were still things we were working on, and we had already gone past at least an hour. So, I mean, if this was an emergency, but it's not. So easy peasy.
Any other questions on tabling?
Well, I'm just looking this over a little bit, and I see that it says the board allows that public comment be made at the beginning of each meeting. The next set, if the board determines there is not sufficient time at the meeting for public comments, the comment period may be deferred to the next regular meeting or to a special meeting occurring before the next regular meeting. So you're saying that if you want to say there's not enough time at a meeting, you don't want to hear from the public. Maybe a comment that the public is making could affect decisions on votes that evening. And now you just took that away from the public. I have a problem with censoring any person. I mean, it is a constitutional right to speak freely.
Yes,
As long as you do not.
I would suggest you bring your concerns to the policy committee.
Or right.
The policy, excuse me, Elizabeth, I have the floor. The policy committee is the one that made adjustments to those policy and recommended they move forward.
Okay.
So if you have.
This is the first
what should-
read, and I
what
just
should
made,
happen at the first read, the policy committee should present them. You should ask your questions, and then your questions and concerns should go back and can be looked at before the second read.
and everybody here is on the policy committee.
No, they're not.
No. So
And
what we're at now, the part we're at now,
You're not on the policy?
I am, but
Yeah.
there's only 3.
there's only three.
Okay, and all 3 are here this evening?
Yes,
Mhm.
it's,
Where we're at now, excuse me, where we're at now
All 3 are here.
is we
So they
have
hear this.
a motion and second to return these two policies back to the policy committee.
Yep.
That's a motion and second. I have a roll call vote for doing that. Yes would mean sending them back to the policy committee.
thank you.
No would mean working on them tonight.
well, that's the first point. That's the whole point of the first read. Because you read through it, you have time to look it over. And then if you have any questions or you would like the policy committee to take it back and rework it, that's the point of the first read.
I'm
So
asking that this go back to the first read because
This is
even
the first-
ARs correct me if I'm wrong. On 000 local board procedures, that's us. Do we have ARs for what we're allowed to do or say?
We're not discussing 000.
That's right.
Policy 2 and 3.
So I
roll
made the
call-
motion, it goes back.
Roll call vote, please. Yes means it goes back to the policy committee. No means it stays here for first read.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
yes,
Mr. Knopf,
Yes,
Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino.
Yes.
motion passes. 2 will go back to the policy committee for
2 and 3.
reconsideration.
He said these two.
Yeah. Okay, you said these
0, 1, 2,
two.
and 0, 3.
Thank you.
Now we're at policy 800. I have a motion for policy 800, please.
I make that motion.
We have a motion by Chris. Do we have a second?
second.
Second by Elizabeth. Any questions on policy 800? Not,
Butch,
It
yes.
is first.
again, this is a first read. It's not a second read. We're not voting on it.
Sorry, okay,
Oh, see, that's, just for future, just for the future. It's,
okay.
the
We're
Tracy
moving
used to
along.
always write first read on there.
It says first
It
read.
says first read up.
Policy, first
Policy.
read.
Oh, okay,
My
I was
fault.
looking down here.
My bad.
fault, my fault.
K1, personnel. We have a motion for K1.
So moved.
Motion,
Seconded.
motion by Tracy, second by Roger. Any questions on the personnel agenda?
I've got questions.
Go ahead.
If you go down the first list, and I may be way out in left field and wrong here. A classroom volunteer, we have Polly Donahue is on one of the classrooms. Could that be considered a conflict of interest?
Not at all. In fact, we enjoy having board members who are volunteers in the classroom. There's no conflict of interest there.
Okay,
Just
because
as
I
long as
know
they're
there
not
was
in
this, there was a thing in the policies we're taking back that we're not supposed to go to the schools unless we get permission and all that.
Doesn't say permission.
So-
It says, it asks to inform the principal and me if you're going into the school.
Okay, that was one question.
And
then a lot of
Chris,
the-
I have the only thing that will happen, what should happen, if Polly was here tonight, if she's listed, she should abstain from that. So
Right.
anytime one of us is on
Okay.
there, I know I've helped with like basketball programs before.
Right.
I've always abstained. She's helping in a classroom. She should abstain if she was here.
I
tonight.
just saw that and I'm like, well, I want to make sure that
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
not in
Thank-
trouble.
Nope. not at
May
all.
I add something to that? May I add something to that?
You asked me.
Well, I just want, didn't want to interrupt him. May I?
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
I think it's wonderful that a school board member is going to be actually, helping with all the things that we want to get done. But what happens I'm not looking for an answer right now, but what happens if she sees something or she hears something, let's say it's very derogatory about you or about me, or she hears, does she have direction to know that, back up, report to you? I just think we've never had this situation before, and I hate to see a board member
We've
get.
had,
This has been going on for.
as long as I
this-
can
yeah.
recall, the school district has had volunteers. As long as I can recall,
Board members?
there's been times that board,
Who?
I volunteered for numerous things, numerous
Oh,
times.
years and years ago, before, this is a different world though.
If I wanted to do basketball, I'd volunteer now.
Well, that's sports.
It's
That's not-
the same thing. You're volunteering. I volunteered.
Okay,
I
I just,
believe,
okay.
I do believe who helped? Polly helped with something earlier.
Well, I
thought.
think it's
And
great.
Chris,
No,
you
I
helped
think
with
it's
the
great.
special
Chris
I
Olympics.
helped with special
Yeah,
Olympics.
I mean, it's the same
It's the
thing.
same
Right, I
thing.
just wanted to make sure there wasn't a conflict because I got
No,
asked about
she
it.
would have abstained.
Okay,
That was all
thank
I
you.
wanted to
Any
know.
other questions on the personnel item?
Yes, I have some.
Go ahead.
We're voting on a whole bunch of transfers that happened. One of them is clear back in March. The first one, the transfer of Brittany Berkey from PCA at Rob to building assistant effective back in March. A bunch of them are effective way back in May. Why are we so behind the ball
Is it a typo?
on voting on them? Are the dates wrong or? We should have voted on them a long time
It would
ago.
have been great for you to ask me that question if I had enough time to research that, but I can't answer in the context of, I don't have an answer for you right now. So.
Okay.
Chris,
I
what
mean,
page are you on?
It doesn't have a number on it, page 4.
I see, there was at the end, March 21st, March 20th.
There's a May 20th, I see from
Yeah, March
Mike
25th.
Haynes.
I see what the one you're looking at.
There's a May
20th.
20th, May 20th, May 10th, May 10th, May 13th, May 13th, May 29th, May 28th, June 17th.
Well, so the ones in May should have been on the June agenda, and they were on the June, so the May ones make perfect sense. Why they're one for the March, I don't know. So
Okay.
the May ones, absolutely perfect. That's exactly the timing that you should see those.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's clears that up. Mhm.
And then if we go on to page 5 under professional. We're hiring 1, 2, 3, 4 more people. And the 5th one, we're hiring Abby Dunaway as a long-term substitute, but she's getting the same salary as full-time people
Because she's working full time.
as a substitute.
So a long-term sub, if it's someone that's out on leave for some reason for a semester or something like, we have to replace that person with somebody else.
Right.
Long-term sub. So they pick up and do the job for that chunk of time.
But they don't get
Okay.
health insurance. I think that's right. Oh, don't worry about it now.
Are they on full benefits and everything?
That was my
too?
question, but don't worry about it. It just popped into my head. We can find out some other time.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I
Yep,
have to look
yep,
back at the
doesn't-
contract.
It's okay.
And I noticed there's a lot of people that says they're displaced.
Just
Are-
move to it from one place to
Are
another.
they okay with that movement or? Is it a you
I don't
have to
know.
do it if you want a job type of deal?
Well, I don't know if it's either one of those extremes. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, you know. We have to, occasionally we have to ask people to move from one place to another to fulfill all of the work requirements and coverage of students and all that sort of thing.
Okay. And on I guess it's page 7, we had the resignation of Tracy Long to discuss. She had sent us all a letter asking for us to discuss all the days that she had and to relieve her of the payments that she has to make for some classes she took, like we've done to other people. We've never discussed that, never even had a word about it, so I'm curious.
So that's part of my role is to make that determination. That's the way it's written into board policy is that I can make
Okay.
that determination. And so again, I'm a little reluctant to talk about specific personnel in an open meeting. In
Well,
general,
understand that, but she sent us all an email, it's never been responded to.
well, I
That's why I'm
responded,
asking.
I responded to her and I apologize for not saying something to you. I think I may have mentioned it in one of my weekly memos, but I'm not.
I've never seen a
But
response.
I
to
may
it.
have missed that. So I'll send something to give you more information about that.
Okay.
Any other questions on the personnel?
One more. On this, job description down on number 3.
Page 3, job description?
No.
Personnel.
We're in the
no, no,
personnel,
no,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
personnel. The K on 2 and 3. Well, 2 is
What-
okay, but
No,
3.
Stop,
discussing
stop,
them.
stop. We're
We
on
haven't.
we're on K1. K1
Oh,
only.
okay.
K1.
No, that was it.
Any question, other additional questions on K1 personnel?
No.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now we're on K2. Kim.
When you said personnel, I thought you meant you wanted to pass the whole thing. On 2 and 3, the job description, I shouldn't say 2 and 3. Is this the learning center coordinator, the advisor and all that? Is that one position or is that 3?
One position.
One position, okay. That's what I was curious of.
So K2 is a position,
Right,
K3 is one position, and K4 is a position, K5 is a position.
right. I know about the
Okay.
number 4 because we all got the memo on that.
Alright.
That was online. That's the only one I've seen.
Okay, so we're gonna do,
I moved to move items K2 through 5.
we have a motion for K2, 3, 4, and 5. Do we have a
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. Any questions on 2, 3, 4, and 5? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving right along. L1 or L, curricular, co-curricular. Can I get a motion for 1 and 2?
I make a motion, we pass both of
We
I
can't,
second that.
we can't do that.
Oh, no, we can't
No.
because
Number 2 is
ELA
curriculum.
curriculum
Yeah, like
Oh,
curriculum
has
has
to
to-
be a vote.
Okay,
them. Okay,
L1, we have a motion for L1.
make it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for L1. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? ELA curriculum. I'm
I'll make the
sorry.
motion.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second by Tracy. Any questions on the curriculum? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yeah,
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Everybody, motion passed. Next up, M1, MOU for the SOUs.
I'll make a
That's-
motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the MOU for the SROs. Any questions on those?
Yes,
Go ahead.
on the MOU for the safety officers. I think that we need to get somewhere even close to what other districts are paying around us. Now, I'm one that's all about saving money. But these guys are putting their life on the line to protect every one of us if we need it. I think they should be starting out at about $28 or $30 an hour, not where they are. The raises, it's just not enough. We're not even close to what other school districts are paying. And like I said, these guys are important. And if you think about this, these guys get a better offer from somewhere else, they're out of here. And we, at the rate that we're paying and stuff, we are not even gonna attract other people. The state police field is drying up because most of the guys are in retirement age. They've already got things they want to do, or they don't want to be involved at all. And where are we going to keep generating officers that if they leave and we need new ones? We don't have an attractive package whatsoever. I think we need to start their pay different. And I think the raises need to be different also, because we have to look outside of the box, not just sitting on top of where we are. Because I know there's talk of a couple of them leaving because there's so many better offers out there. And I think Dr. Randy, you could probably agree with that, can't
you? Yeah, well, so we had a lot of discussions about this, and did a lot of research with locals. And I actually sat with all the guys at one point in time that discussed this whole process moving through. And I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get them to a compromise of close proximity districts with us, because when you look outside of this area, there are some that are paying upwards of $40 an hour.
Right.
Different tax base, different situation, and so on. So I think at this point, we put them very close to, when you look at like a BEA, within their school resource officer. Do we have some ways to go yet? Absolutely. But I think this is, when you couple in the dollar raise within the percentages, I think we'll get there a little bit quicker. And then we can also look at this year after year. So, because remember, they have 30-day agreements. So if we put this in there and we set these dates, but we could also renegotiate that as a board moving forward. But this is at least a good start to get us.
Oh, I agree.
To a
It's
compromise.
a good start, but I'd like to see us come up a little further for these
What
guys.
I would suggest is that the security committee meet with these gentlemen, start talking with the personnel committee, and try to come up with something that will be acceptable for the district and them.
And also future, because a lot of these guys are gonna age out soon.
So,
Yeah, we have to look at the
and I would
road
suggest
ahead.
security
And I
and
don't think
personnel.
there's,
That's good.
Yeah,
I don't think there's one parent that would argue that these guys aren't worth it.
Agree. I think they're
So
worth every dollar. and
maybe
more.
at the next security meeting, we can invite personnel to come also, but I'd like to see the officers show up also.
Okay, so we have a motion and second on the floor for the MOU for the security officers. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Ellen.
Yes.
Good one. Motion passed. Last MOU for the
I make a
ESP.
motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the clarification. Any questions on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Motion.
I'd like to make a
adjourn.
motion to
Stop.
adjourn.
I beat
Before
you.
before we move on, I have an announcement I have to make. If you would, please. So we will have to have an executive session immediately following this. I think we'll break for 5 minutes. Have an executive session for security. We have to discuss the Act 44 presentation. So we have to do that tonight. So executive session after this meeting for that. Now I'll entertain.
Actually,
Motion.
before we do that, Patty,
Mhm.
is this your last meeting?
It sure is.
Oh,
We're gonna
Well,
miss you very much.
okay, in that case, I would like to say thank you for your time here. You've been a very wonderful person to work with. And I look forward to seeing you at the Moose.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
I
you.
agree.
You're welcome.
You've done a great
Back to
job.
Steve.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Feel the love.
You know what? I feel the same way.
Okay, so motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Motion. I already made it
Okay.
earlier.
We're done. We'll get back here at
Sorry, buddy.
Whatever.
8:30. We'll start.
All right.
I have to use the facility.